Hey there, I'm Jay Pasaris with PB&J Records. Thank you for checking out the Almost Famous podcast. As you know, Boston and the South Shore continues to produce some of the country's best independent music. This week, you can check out some great acts like Bobby Kane at Weymouth's Union Brewhouse. You can check out Amanda Adams hosting the Songwriter in the Round series at Hennessy's, and Ward Hayden of Ward Hayden and the Outliers down at Mr. Dooley's in Cohasset. Follow PB&J Records and Almost Famous on Facebook and Instagram, and thank you for supporting our thriving local music community.
When you're almost famous, you just might find yourself live on air on WATD. Hour 2 of Almost Famous begins now.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Almost Famous on 95.9 WATD. It's also the start of the Almost Famous Tiny Stage Hour and the beginning of the Almost Famous podcast. Introducing you to independent bands and musicians every Tuesday night from 8 till 10, right here on 95.9 WATD and 95.9WATD.com. Before we get things started officially tonight, you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/almostfamousradio, Instagram at Almost Famous Radio, and our podcast, which you can find wherever podcasts are available or by going to almostfamousradio.com. So tonight we are being joined, I think for the first time ever, by 2 musicians on the Tiny Stage Hour, and we're proud to welcome back both of them. We have Kat Kennedy and Katie Dobbins. How you doing tonight?
Hi.
Hi, doing good. We're like, who talks first?
Excellent. So whoever wants to go first, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Katie Dobbins, and I am a singer-songwriter based out of Somerville. Just released my second album last spring called There Is Light, and yeah, I'm just excited to play for you all listening out there.
Excellent.
And I'm Kat Kennedy. I'm back. This is probably maybe the 4th time, but a special time because I moved to Los Angeles after being in Boston for 8 years. So I'm really glad to be back and speaking with you, John.
Excellent. So Katie, I'll go back to you and describe your sound, if you would.
Well, I think I describe it as folk pop with a country twist.
All right, that sounds about right.
It's the most succinct way I've found.
And you recently dropped an album.
I did, yeah. It's called There Is Light, and it's available on Spotify, iTunes, all that jazz.
Awesome. And Kat Kennedy also recently dropped an album, too. Talk about that.
Yes, my debut album. I released it in June, and that was a really cool album. It's called Drifting. It was completely crowdfunded, so I did a Kickstarter, and we worked on spreading the word for that together. So yeah, it feels great to have it finally be out in the world.
Awesome. Well, let's start with the song, and Katie Dobbins, we'll start with you. What are you sharing with us first tonight?
Cool. So I'm going to sing a song. It's actually the closing track of my record, and it's called There's a Light.
All right. We have Katie Dobbins and Kat Kennedy in studio tonight. Katie Dobbins starts us off on 95.9 WATD. The tiny stage is yours.
but that light shining in the morning, you can tell it's not going nowhere. So you pull your squinty eyes up, blinded by this beautiful day. But not everybody's ready to wake up. Not everybody's ready for a cup. They don't really want to see anything but their own sheep. But do you wanna do something? There's a light inside, and it shines. Yeah, it shines. There's a light inside, and it shines. Yeah, it shines so bright. But they don't really wanna see the light that's bursting at your seams. So all you gotta do is tell me, do you wanna be something? 'Cause they don't wanna see the light. They don't know what's wrong from what's right. All you gotta do is tell me, you wanna do
And that is Katie Dobbins on the tiny stage tonight on 95.9 WATD. Great job on that.
Thanks.
Also being joined by Kat Kennedy. We'll be chatting with her in just a few moments. But Katie, tell us how that song happened.
That's one of those songs that I just kind of I woke up one morning and I was like, I feel like playing guitar. And I was sitting on my bed and it just kind of came to me all in one sitting pretty much. So that's a beautiful thing and doesn't happen all that often. But yeah, it was a really fun song to write. And then it was a really fun song to produce with Sean McLaughlin, who helped me produce this record. And so the song in its recording kind of has a little bit of a gospel vibe on parts of it, is kind of what we went for. And a little bit of a dreamy, ethereal vibe as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Now, that song also is sort of the title track of the record. Was that intentional when you wrote that song? Did you know that was going to be the name of the album?
No, I did not. I wrote that song before I even knew I was going to make an album. So, and then when we made the album, I kind of bookended it. The first song is called Photograph the Stars, and then this is the closing track of it. And so I kind of liked how it was bookended with different songs about, different lights in the world, if you will. So, yeah. But yeah, it's not really the title track. The album is There Is Light, and the song is There's a Light, which is very confusing. But you could think of it as the title track. That's also cool.
Great. And where's that album available?
It's available for purchase anytime you come to a show, and also on my website, katiedobbinsmusic.com. And then you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, and all those places.
Very cool. And a few years back, you started a movement that's called Let the Music Set You Free. Talk about that a little bit, too.
Yeah, so Let the Music Set You Free came about with the release of my first record, which is called She Is Free. And so the record was kind of a declaration of myself, setting myself free from old fears that I had around performing and kind of being vulnerable and putting my music out there, and just writing songs is such a vulnerable process. And so I actually had not done music for a while, then came back to it with that record. And so I was really excited, and I wanted to include other artists. And so the album release show was kind of the first Let the Music Set You Free show. And then I did a tour with it. And basically it was just where artists got together and we all shared our music, and then also shared how, music sets us free and like what that means for all of us. And then it eventually turned into a podcast, which I actually kind of have been taking a hiatus from, but it is out there and there are some really great episodes that you can check out. It's called Let the Music Set You Free. And it's just on any podcast platform.
Yeah, you did that for just about a year, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was releasing an episode a month for about maybe a year and a half. Yeah. So there's quite a few things on there and some really good artists. There's different guest artists on every episode, so you can hear their music too.
Awesome. Speaking of interviews, we're also being joined in studio tonight by Kat Kennedy. Kat, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, the last time you were here, we were also talking about your, was that your debut full-length album?
That was my debut album. And yeah, that was probably the last time I was in the studio with you. We were talking about either the Kickstarter or the upcoming release for Drifting.
Awesome. And before we get too much further, how is Toby?
Toby's great. That's my dog, for those of you who don't know. And he came in and was co-hosting with us that time.
He was.
Right?
He was great. He didn't bark or anything. He just kind of like roamed around. He didn't pee on the rug, which is always a plus.
Yeah, he did a good job. But he's doing great. He's with my parents right now.
Awesome. So for those who might not be familiar with you, give us a little bit more detail as to your background.
Sure, yeah. So I moved to Boston 9 years ago, and I attended Berklee College of Music. So I think I was 18 years old and started going to college there. And I hadn't done a lot of music before I came to Boston, so it was kind of like a big learning curve for me, and I was starting to just figure out what I wanted to do exactly in music, which I originally thought would be just performing, and then developed a love of songwriting at school. And that took me kind of all over the world. I was traveling. I've been cross-country doing indie tours 3 times now in the same van, and to Alaska and down to Brazil. And it's been a really fun experience for me, just kind of exploring, touring and writing songs and that type of thing. And this year I ended up moving to Los Angeles to continue to pursue music.
Fantastic.
Good.
What made you want to record that debut album?
Well, the album had been a long time coming. I had done the EP. I did the EP in 2015, and then I released the acoustic version of that in 2017, I believe. And it had been a few years, and I was writing a ton of songs. I mean, I had a bunch of songs, but it was really a matter of just how to go about funding it. I knew I wanted it to be like really special and recorded really well, and obviously wanted to pay the musicians and everything. So it was just a challenge to figure out how to do that. And that's when the Kickstarter came in, and we were able to successfully raise $10,000 for it. So that opened up a whole new pathway for me to be able to do the 10 songs.
That's awesome. And you and I both met at an open mic in, was it Alston?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so how long ago was that?
That must have been 5 years ago.
Yeah, if not more.
6 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just funny to think of that journey from like doing those open mics and starting that out, and then, yeah, all the way to the first album. Cool.
Well, let's do a song, Kat. What are we listening to from you?
Sure. So I've got Austin Smith on guitar in the studio behind me.
Hey, Austin.
He doesn't have a mic, but he's here. And we're going to do Notice Me, which is the first single off of this last album.
Okay. We have Kat Kennedy right now, along with Katie Dobbins on the tiny stage tonight. 95.9 WATD. It's all yours.
Your voice, your lips give me goosebumps. I feel your skin, but I can't touch. I come undone when you look at me.
Will you look at me? I bet you're a 10, yeah, you're so good. You think I'm cool, yeah, I know you would. You'd come undone if you look at me. But you don't look at me, and I always get my way. You've changed the rules up in my own game. Why don't you notice me noticing you? I'm watching you, are you watching me too? I'm dropping hints like they're bombs for you. Why don't you notice me noticing you? Notice me noticing you. I gave you eyes that you didn't see. I sat at the bar with an empty drink. We could be gone if you look at me. But you don't look at me, and I always get my way. You've changed the rules up in my own game. Why don't you notice me noticing you? I'm watching you, are you watching me too? I'm dropping hints like they're bombs for you. Why don't you notice me noticing you? Notice me noticing you. Ooh, tell me what I gotta do. I just wanna talk to you. Ooh, I'm not gonna stick around if I don't stick out from the crowd. So baby, notice me noticing you. I'm watching you, are you watching me too? I'm dropping hints like they're bombs for you. Why don't you notice me noticing you? Notice me noticing. Why don't you notice me noticing you? I'm watching you, are you watching me too? I'm dropping hints like they're bombs for you. Why don't you notice me noticing you? Notice me noticing. Why don't you notice me noticing you? I'm watching you, are you watching me too? I'm dropping hints like they're bombs for you. Why don't you notice me noticing you? Notice me noticing you.
Very cool. Cat Kennedy, 95.9 WATD. Notice Me. Now, is that song autobiographical?
Good question, John. I think it was one of my teachers, Pat Pattison, was saying how, like, you'll write a song and you'll be like, oh, this has nothing to do with my life. And, this is completely fictional and made up. And then you look back at the songs you've written and realize that they were true about your life. And I wrote that song. It was a co-write. So it was like multiple people. And we were all thinking about, I think, experiences where you want someone to notice you and pay attention to you because you're noticing them. I don't think it was any one particular person any of us were thinking about, but definitely a feeling that I've experienced, sure.
Awesome. You're listening to Almost Famous on 95.9 WATD. I'm John Shea, introducing you to independent bands and musicians from across the region, here on the South Shore, into Boston, across New England. We're being joined by two guests tonight. We have Katie Dobbins and Cat Kennedy in studio, and we have to take our first time out of the night. And I think after the break, we might try something different. If it's okay with you guys, maybe I can have you interview each other.
Cool. I like it.
So let's see what happens. 95.9 WATD. We're brought to you each week by Tiny and Sons Glass.
We're your radio station, the South Shore's 95.9 WATD.
Welcome back to Almost Famous on 95.9 WATD, introducing you to independent bands and musicians from across New England every Tuesday, brought to you by Tiny and Sons Glass. My name is John. Follow us on Facebook tonight, facebook.com/almostfamousradio. Instagram at Almost Famous Radio, our podcast, which is available at almostfamousradio.com, and you can stream the show live tonight at 95.9 WATD. We have in studio tonight two guests, a rare occasion here on the show, and we're being joined by Cat Kennedy and Katie Dobbins. How you both doing?
Very good.
Awesome.
We'll get the hang of that third time around.
Exactly, yes, eventually. So for those who missed the first part of the show, whoever wants to go first, introduce yourself.
Hi. Oh, we did it. Sorry, we're just looking at each other. Okay, I just messed that up. We did it, and then I messed it up. You can crop that out. Hi, I'm Katie Dobbins. And I'm a singer-songwriter from Somerville. Well, that's where I live right now. I'm originally from New Hampshire. Play all around the Boston area, also New Hampshire and Vermont. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Of course. And how about your online information?
You can find me at katiedobbinsmusic.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Katie Dobbins Music.
Fantastic. And who else? Kat.
Yes. Hi, I'm Kat Kennedy. I am an LA transplant, but was in Boston for 8 years, playing around the area. And I do pop music, originals. You can find me on Instagram at catdogmusic. That's cat with a K. Or my website, catkennedymusic.com, or facebook.com/catkennedymusic.
Awesome. And the name of your album, Kat?
My debut album, which came out in June, is called Drifting.
All right. And Katie, did you mention your album?
I did not. It's called There Is Light, and it came out in April.
Fantastic. Let's do another song from each of you, and then we'll get into the fun interviewing each other part. Who wants to start?
I'll start. It's Katie. And I'm going to play a song called The Muse from my new album.
All right. 95.9 WATD. Katie Dobbins, the tiny stage is yours.
Wake up again in the same old place. Get yourself ready for the same old day. Moving along at the same old pace. Telling yourself that you like it that way. This routine is wearing thin, but sometimes in life it's just easier to blend in. That's what you tell yourself to keep on going. You're searching and running away from the truth, trying to hold on to someone else's news, dying to just step out of your shoes, all because you're frightened by the muse in you. Ooh, 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 Looking around at the same old faces, pushing along in this never-ending race. So many shots that you'll never take, no room to risk making mistakes. You're searching and running away from the truth, trying to hold on to someone else's news, dying to just step out of your shoes, all because you're frightened by the muse in you. Ooh, 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 Using you. Ooh, ooh, Whispers, can you feel the whispers? Whispers beneath your skin. Feel the sound now. There's a pulse pushing out of you. It's rising and it's getting louder, louder, louder. Oh, quiet that sound, quiet that sound, quiet that sound. Searching, you'll run away from the truth. Dying, why are you dying to get out of your shoes? Frightened, why are you scared of that muse? Ooh, 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 Using you. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Awesome job on that one, Katie.
Thanks.
Katie Dobbins on 95.9 WATD. Talk about how that one happened.
So that was a song that I wrote sort of like, I don't know. I think I thought I was writing it about other people, kind of like what Kat was saying. Like, I didn't realize it was about myself until it was almost done. And I was like, this is totally about me. And it's kind of a song like to and about my younger self, I think, like back, kind of like looking back and being like, why were you so afraid? Like, why were you so afraid to do what you love and be vulnerable and be who you are?
Awesome. Then there's a lot of lyrics in the verses to that song. Was that an easy song for you to write?
I wrote that song, I think so, because that was another one that came out like pretty quickly. I wrote it while I was cleaning my room.
Okay.
And I was just like, I was just moving around, and I don't know, maybe that's where the fast lyrics came from. I was just like on the go.
I can see that. And Kat Kennedy, you're up next. What are we hearing from you next?
All right. This one's called Mathematician. This is also off of Drifting, the album. And we've got Austin Smith on guitar behind me.
Right. Let's hear it. We have Kat Kennedy and Katie Dobbins in studio tonight, 95.9 WATD. Take it away.
I love to go and play on your last nerve. You stoop so low and kick me when I'm down. Got a way of bringing out my worst. I'm not sure why we stick around. And as people go, we're really not so bad. But some things were just never meant to last. I'm not a mathematician, but this is simple addition. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal. We were getting lost in division, but there's just something we're missing. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal. So when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Ooh, when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Hungover from our fight last night. This back and forth is all the same. Getting drunk, I'm proving myself right. I know we're never gonna change. Each breakup leaves us worse off than our last. At some point we just gotta face the facts. I'm not a mathematician, but this is simple addition. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal. We were getting lost in division, but there's just something we're missing. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal. So when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Ooh, when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Ooh, oh no, no, I'm not a mathematician, but this is simple addition. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal. We were getting lost in division, but there's just something we're missing. So I know you plus me is never gonna equal me. So when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Ooh, when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. When we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up. Ooh, when we gonna give it up, gonna give it up, give it up.
Awesome. Kat Kennedy, 95.9 WATD, off of her Drifting album, Mathematician. Great job on that one.
Thank you.
Talk about the writing of that song.
So I think we were approaching the very end of kind of the pre-recording process. It was me and Josh Friedman, who is, his artist name is That One-Eyed Kid. He's also just awesome producer in the local scene, in the Boston scene. And we were kind of getting to the end. I had all the songs written. I had like a couple seeds that we were choosing between, like a couple little ideas. And it was just getting down to crunch time. I was like, I really need to finish and decide which one I'm going to do and finish out that song. So I was just going on walks in the morning and listening to a ton of music, like reference tracks and pop music and stuff. And once I had done that for a couple days and I sat down with Josh and we kind of picked that idea of like a twist on Mathematician, where I feel like usually it would be like, oh, 1 + 1 = 2. We're meant to be together. We kind of, we like the idea of having that twist where it's like, the math is not working out. It's not adding up. We're not going to be together kind of a thing. So once we picked that theme, I just sat down with all those ideas I had from walking around with that music. And like Katie said, that one came out pretty smoothly, more or less, I would say, once we had that theme, at least.
Awesome. Very cool. And that is Kat Kennedy. She's joining us along with Katie Dobbins on the tiny stage tonight. And Katie, since you've been here before and done this before, I'll let you get things started here. And do you want to ask Kat any questions?
I do want to ask Kat a question. So, Kat, you said you moved to LA recently. So what's the difference? Like, how would you describe the LA music scene versus Boston or like South Shore music?
That was a good question. You can tell she's had a podcast.
Yes.
That was a high quality question. It's been an adjustment, of course, because I've been there just now a year. I moved there at the end of January of 2019, and now it's the beginning of January this year. So, yeah, it's just been an adjustment, and it's been really fun to like reconnect with friends from college that had all moved out there, and that was kind of a major reason I decided to move out there, even though I love Boston and I loved like the scene and everything here, and I definitely miss it. It's been fun to be able to go out there and reconnect with those people and write with them more and just kind of see what they're doing. As far as the scene goes, here in Boston, I find it's, or at least in my experience so far, it's been like more conducive to the live scene and like the indie scene in a way. Whereas out there, I find it a bit more like business oriented. So it's kind of more focused on like either, you don't have to necessarily get a label, but like kind of having that business mindset of like, how am I going to take this brand and, make it big or whatever, that sort of a thing. Whereas here, it's kind of what I was always used to, where it's like very indie and like bootstraps and, just like do it yourself and get your people and crowd around you. Yeah. So that's been one of the like more major differences that I've found.
Yeah. Well, you're probably learning a lot.
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you find that like here in the Boston music scene, it seems to be a very supportive scene? Everybody seems to kind of be, like musicians against the world type thing. Do you find that to be the same in LA?
That's a good point. It is really supportive, and it's like very close knit. Like I'm always surprised when I talk to you, John, if I mention like someone in the local scene, I'll be like, do you know so-and-so? And you're always like, yes, I know them. Or like, it just seems like everyone knows each other, and it's not that different in LA. Like I do find so many people overlap, at least from like the crowd I've been in. If I'm like, oh, do you know so-and-so? And they're like, yes, of course I do. But it's such a bigger scene that sometimes I feel like there's like a teeny bit of competitiveness to that too, where you're like, well, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Like that sort of a thing.
I bet I can find someone you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But by no means like all people are like that. But no, it's just a bigger scene, and I think it's like rotating a lot. Like just like I just came and I'm trying it out and I don't know what to expect. And I think there's a lot of people like me out there who are just kind of trying to figure out where they're going to go from there, if they're going to stay in the city or and make it work there or what. But both scenes are supportive in their own way. Boston definitely is a bit more close-knit, I would say.
So for somebody who might be considering exploring outside the New England area to LA, maybe even Nashville, any advice that you would share with them?
I would say give it a try. I mean, I was in Nashville too. That wasn't my scene. But yeah, I would say, give it a try. It's always good to explore and see how it is. I love Boston, and I would definitely consider coming back. I think if you don't go explore it, you'll kind of wonder what it was like. So that would be my only advice is just, if you're being drawn to it, why not check it out? The worst thing that happens is you move back.
Awesome.
Is there a lot of co-writing in LA? Because I know that's huge in Nashville. And
Yes. Yeah, so when I was in Nashville, and anyone listening who's like seen the other side of Nashville is not going to believe me, but I found it was pretty country. Like the co-writing scene there was really country. So coming from like a pop, or I was trying to get more into like a pop thing, I felt like it was a little bit hard for me to find like those pop co-writes, even though a lot of people had told me, oh, it's not just country, but It was just kind of my experience that it was. And there's tons of co-writes, and it's so awesome for that, for like the country scene. LA is like very, what's the word I'm looking for? Collaborative. It's very collaborative. So like tons of co-writes. Every session I do is like with another person, and usually a producer and another person. So that's a really cool component to that city.
Awesome. So why don't we do a song from Katie next, and then Kat, you can interview Katie.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds good.
What are we doing next?
I'm going to play a new song, I think, that's not on the record. So this is a song I wrote over the summer. And yeah, it's just about kind of like finding the things that you're passionate about and running after them. So this is a song called What Moves You.
All right, Katie Dobbins, 95.9 WATD. It's all yours.
Say every song can go a million different ways. If you have a verse and a chorus, there's a beat you gotta lay. You could have a mandolin or a violin or a trumpet playing, but all that really matters is what you're saying. It's about what moves you, what pulses through you, and we're all out here doing the best we can to find what moves us. They say every life can go a million different ways. Get a job or go to college or pick up and move away. Get married, have a family, work on a Wall Street or make art. But all that really matters is that you're following your heart. It's about what moves you, what pulses through you, and we're all out here doing the best we can to find what moves us. It could be a pop song or a sing-along or a country music jam. It could be rock and roll or folk or soul, acoustic or band. But we're all out here doing the best we can. Yeah, we're all out here doing the best we can to find what moves us. It's about what moves you. They say every heart can love a million different things. Whether it's a person or a hobby or a dream you gotta chase. It could be a mountaintop or the church of God or a chance you can't stop taking. All that really matters is that you're feeling. It's about what moves you, what pulses through you, and we're all out here doing the best we can. Yeah, we're all out here doing the best we can. Oh, I think we're out here doing the best we can to find what They say every song can go a million different ways.
Fantastic. Katie Dobbins, 95.9 WATD. You want to tell us quickly about what that song's about?
Yeah. Well, I can't really remember writing it. I don't know if Kat has any songs like that, but I can't really remember the process of writing it. But it's just about how, like, well, for me, I have a lot of different things that I'm passionate about. And kind of the inspiration behind the song was I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was feeling really stressed out because I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. Because, you know, I'm a full-time teacher too. So I teach and I play music. I also like to write. I have a dream of writing a book, and I also like to travel, but I don't get to do it that often. And so there's just so many things that we can do in life. Like, we're so grateful. I'm grateful that I do have so many things that I'm interested in. But at that moment in time, it was causing me a lot of anxiety because I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, there's too many choices. And my friend asked me, well, no matter what you choose, like, if you like all of the things that you're talking about, then will you be happy with any of them? And I was like, yeah, that's the problem. And she was basically like, I don't think that's a problem. Like, I think you just need to relax. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm really lucky that I have a lot of things and people that I love. And it kind of like took that burden off of me. Like, I don't need to have like the one thing that I do, or like I don't need to do it all either. Like, it can just be what's moving me right now. So that's kind of what birthed that.
Awesome. So, Kat, you're up. Any questions you want to ask Katie?
I do have a question. I was just curious because you had talked a little bit about that's the last song, just not listening to the muse or like some passion that drew you, which I'm assuming you meant music. And I was just curious. I guess I don't know really the start of your musical journey. Did you kind of put it off like you were saying in that song, and you were like, no, I shouldn't do that because that makes no money? And
what? It makes no money? Or maybe I should rethink that. No, I'm just
right. Or did you just kind of, I don't know. I'm just curious if you did put it off, kind of what that was like and why you did that and what made you decide to start doing music.
So, good question. At the time that I put it off, I don't think I was really thinking that much about it. I think, so in high school, I was always in musical theater, and I was always writing songs and playing them out at different, like, you know, coffee shop events and things like that. And then in college, I just kind of was like, oh, I just want to like do other things. And it was kind of in my subconscious, but it wasn't until later, upon reflecting on it, that I realized that what I actually was doing was I think I was afraid of both options. I was afraid of being terrible and like having people say that I could never be a musician and like hating my songs. And I also was afraid of being successful, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. And so I had this fear of like, what happens if I follow this and it's something really amazing, but also what happens if I follow it and it's something terrible? And so my response to that was kind of just like shutting it down. And again, like at the time, I think I just thought like, oh, I'm in college, I'm focusing on other things. And I think that's how sneaky it can be when you kind of stop doing something you love. Like, you can just get distracted by other things. And so I think it's really important to always be asking yourself, like, what is going to feed my soul right now? And so then, and there was also a little bit of inferiority complex too involved in there too. Like, oh, well, you know, that's probably for other people anyway. So I'll just let all the real musicians do that. And I'll just like go over here and do this other thing. So that's kind of what that experience, getting, like, taking a step back from it was like for me.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people have definitely that like procrastination because of perfection. I know I do, where you're just like,
oh yeah,
you're like, oh, you know, I won't do this now because I'm not sure it'll be good or whatever, you know, you like put it off. But then also, I think you made a good point about success too, right? Like, a lot of people are afraid of success because I think, again, there's like that complex, like you were saying, where like, well, what if I get there? You know, how am I going to be then, you know, if I do have success?
I think the fear of success is something that we don't talk about a lot. Like, I think it's easier to say, oh, I was afraid that I would stink because like, when you say like, well, I was afraid of like the power inside of me, or like I was afraid of like what awesome things would happen, it almost comes across as like conceited or something, which is not how I mean it at all. But I think that it is something that a lot of people identify with, like in my personal conversations with people. And so I think it'd be cool if we talked about that more, because it's like such a real thing.
That's so true. So just to follow up, if we have time really quickly, how did you decide, you know what, this is a priority? Because now you're like super, gung-ho, you're like all over. You were just saying you perform at least once a week. So you're super active.
Yeah.
I mean, you really like took over the scene, pretty much right away. So what was that like when you were like, nope, I'm going to go for this?
Yeah. So it was a God moment for me. So my faith is really important to me. And I had, at the time, this was like a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, and I had attended a Christian like women's conference down in New York City, and it was called She Is Free. So that's really what the album is kind of named after. It's symbolizing that experience too. But it was at that conference where I just felt like God was kind of calling me back to music, and he was kind of reminding me like, hey, you have a gift and I gave this to you, and like you're going to experience a lot of joy if you step into it. And so because it was kind of a God moment, it really like afforded me that sort of like power to like come back. And I was like, okay, like that's what I'm doing. Like, here I am. Let's go. Let's do this. And so, yeah, I did. I jumped in and I made the album. And actually at that time, a lot of people didn't even know that I was a musician or that I wrote songs because I just never talked about it. And people were like, oh, you're making an album? Cool. Because I did a GoFundMe, similar, like raise money the way you did for your recent album. And yeah, so I just kind of came in guns a-blazing, and people accepted me, which was really nice. Yeah.
That is awesome. So I think we have time for one more song from Kat, and we will do that right after this last time out here on Almost Famous 95.9 WATD.
Hey there, I'm Jay Pisaris with PB&J Records. Thank you for checking out the Almost Famous podcast. As you know, Boston and the South Shore continues to produce some of the country's best independent music. This week, you can check out some great acts like Bobby Kane at Weymouth's Union Brew House. You can check out Amanda Adams hosting the Songwriter in the Round series at Hennessy's, and Ward Hayden of Ward Hayden and the Outliers down at Mr. Dooley's in Cohasset. Follow PB&J Records and Almost Famous on Facebook and Instagram, and thank you for supporting our thriving local music community.
Keep it right here. We're the South Shore's radio station, 95.9 WATD.
And for the final time tonight, welcome back to Almost Famous on 95.9 WATD, introducing you to independent bands and musicians from across New England. Brought to you by Tiny & Sons Glass, this show will be made available as a podcast later on this evening, and you can find that at almostfamousradio.com. You can stream us live at 959watd.com. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/almostfamousradio, and Instagram at almostfamousradio. My name is John. We've been joined in studio tonight by two guests. We've had Katie Dobbins and Kat Kennedy. How you both doing tonight?
Doing great.
Me too.
Awesome. One last time, give us one last introduction.
So I'm Katie Dobbins. You can find me at katieDobbinsmusic.com or Facebook, Instagram at Katie Dobbins Music, and I am a folk pop artist with a country twist.
All right.
And I'm Kat Kennedy. You can find me at katkennedymusic.com, and that's Kat with a K. Instagram is at catdogmusic. That's Kat with a K again. And facebook.com/CatKennedyMusic.
I love how you both are like exchanging looks in there, and like you're not saying a word to each other, but you both know exactly what each one is thinking.
Well, we're scared. We're like, all right, who's going to talk first? We've messed it up twice now, so this time we did it perfectly.
Third
I was very
time's a
proud of
charm.
us. Yes. And I am a pop artist, originally from Connecticut, in Boston 8 years, and just moved to Los Angeles this past year.
Awesome. Enjoying the sunshine?
Yes, although it was rainy when I left.
Okay.
And 40 degrees. So.
And Kat, your album.
Yes, my album is Drifting. It's available anywhere you stream music. So Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, all of those places. And then I have CDs at live shows, which you can find on my website.
Awesome. And Katie, your albums.
Yeah, so I have 2 records out. The first one was released in 2017. That's called She Is Free. And the most recent one is called There's a Light and was released last April. You can find both of those on my website, katieDobbinsmusic.com, or Spotify, Apple Music, all that jazz. I think I said iTunes earlier, but iTunes is no longer a thing. So, but you know.
Well, it is. It's Apple Music now. It's kind of the same.
It's like
I revoke my iTunes
not
statement.
like Oh, did you just say that? Yeah. Oh, that was so rude of me.
Apple Music only.
Yeah, I always say iTunes, and then I'm like, iTunes doesn't really exist though anymore. Anyways, you
It's
can
like
find my
Napster.
music everywhere. Yeah.
Very cool. So I think we have time for one last song before we close things out for the night. And I heard Katie talking about this song during the break. It's kind of the Cat's age shaming song.
Oh, John, it's not even released. We are not going to be calling it the age shaming song yet. I was just saying, this is my unreleased song. And I hope that people can relate to the sentiment of this song.
No matter what age they are.
No matter the age. It's not about the number. It's about the sentiment.
All right. Thank you both for coming to the radio station tonight. And get home safely. And Kat, talk us into the song.
All right. So this one's called Winging It. This is one, it's going to be out next month. So not iTunes, but Apple Music, Spotify, any place you stream music, you can get this song.
All right. Thank you so much.
All of my friends are getting married. They seem to know just who they are. I left the tags on what I'm wearing. I'll be hanging around the open bar, living it up paycheck to paycheck. I'm getting good at getting by. Climbing the ladder makes me anxious, 'cause I feel like I might fall behind. Stay up way too late comparing myself to my Instagram. Swore I thought it out, but my life's nothing like the way I planned. I just thought that I'd be further than this at 26. Have a house in the hills, or at least I'd be rich. Yeah, I'd have it all together and the song would be a hit. But the truth is, I'm just winging it. Should be a Lambo with the ocean breeze, not my Sienna with the broke AC. Hitting Rodeo on a shopping spree instead of dead-end jobs and overdraft fees. Can't get off the internet, addicted to my phone. Anything that might help me ignore my student loans. I just thought that I'd be further than this at 26. Have a house in the hills, or at least I'd be rich. Yeah, I'd have it all together and the song would be a hit. But the truth is, I'm just winging it. I'm just winging it. I keep pushing forward like I know just what I'm doing. Hope that no one notices I haven't got a clue. I just thought that I'd be further than this at 26. Have a house in the hills, or at least I'd be rich. Yeah, I'd have it all together and the song would be a hit. But the truth is, I'm just winging it.